it's the life that it beats. Hustle's the anthem, the clock is my foe. Chasing the vision with a steady glow. Small steps, big dreams, they're starting to grow. Wake up Saturday morning, small business show.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Small Business Saturday Show. I'm your host, Tom Kelly. With me, as always, my co-host, Norman Deal. What's up, Norman? Today, we are going to spotlight Tiffany Coleman Photography, and in our virtual green room, where there's no amenities in our virtual green room, like there's no bottled water or anything. It's just a virtual green room. Tiffany's waiting, so we're going to bring her in now. Tiff!
Hi.
So let us thank you, Norman, for moving me around there. I got a little dizzy. Let us get right into this is Tiffany Coleman Photography. How long have you been a professional photographer, Tiff?
So I've been in photography professionally for 15 years now, but I've always dabbled in it. I even, did photography in high school and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I often wonder, and you, again, having professional experience for the last 15 years, but doing it for a long time, is there something that a person who is into this sees differently than me, who's using, my phone? Do you just you look at it, you can walk into a room or you can look at a landscape and be like, that would really be cool if I was over here and I did this, or how does that all come to?
I think that just comes part of when you're naturally inclined to do something. So, if you have a baseball player, they're going to pick apart a baseball game of what they would do different. And, when you're an artist in photography and stuff like that, you look at stuff and you'll be like, oh, we could do this and put this person over here, or the sunset's beautiful. And, you just learn how to do lighting and angles, and, it just all kind of comes together naturally in your head.
You have been doing in-action shots for us for, 5-6 years now.
Yep.
And all the parents absolutely love them. She will take the most perfect picture of your athlete in the moment. Catchers, batters, pitchers, somebody playing in the outfield. Sometimes she gets them playing in the dirt. It is what it is, but they're the pictures that are the best.
Yeah. And, sometimes those are the most exciting ones, because you actually don't even know, what all you're going to get until after it's over and you're going and reviewing everything. So that's kind of the exciting part, is you just spend the time and do it. And, you get amazing results at the end.
So would you say that candid photos, in the moment photos, are your most favorite, or?
Yeah, they really are. So I even look at, if I do family pictures or doing pictures for kids' birthdays or senior pictures, it's those uncandid photos. Those are my favorite. Stage photos are great and they get, everything you need, but it's those ones that you don't expect. Those are typically my favorite ones.
So I'm guessing that happens with weddings as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right.
Absolutely.
So, Tiff, again, you've been doing this professionally for 15 years, but what kind of gave you that? I don't know. What was your inspiration to get into it professionally? I know you said you dabbled before that. What made you decide, hey, I'm kind of good at this. Maybe I can do this, for a living or for another job or something like that?
So like you said, I've always dabbled in it, but I've also had some bad experiences myself that I didn't get the outcome that I was expecting. I've heard other people, even with their weddings, say, I didn't get this picture and I really, really wanted it. And knowing it's so heartbreaking to know that you have this once in a lifetime event and you'll come out disappointed in the end because this wasn't captured. And I want to be that person for other people that I sit down and discuss with you in depth. What do you want? What's your vision? Let's sit down and make a list and think of everything you could possibly want. And I want to make sure that they get that. And then, I have my own ideas that I'll incorporate into that, because there are going to be things that, they don't think about. So actually disappointment and, in myself, or for my own experiences and with others, knowing that I already enjoyed doing it was really the inspiration to, be able to do for others what I didn't have done for me.
That is, I mean, if there's not a better reason, if there's a better reason out there, I don't know of it. That's pretty awesome. What style of photography do you prefer? I didn't even realize there was a style of photography until I started researching for this interview.
There are so many different styles out there. You can go, the natural way, nowadays you have so many digital things going on. You have digital photography. I prefer, almost kind of like we talked about earlier, those in moments, the natural photography that happens. I do tend to stray away from green screens and, extreme editing, taking a picture, at a lake and turn it into the sunset at the beach. Like, we all know that didn't happen on your wedding day. So those are the things that I don't do. So I really enjoy the in the moment, the natural photography. I do have props. I do have lighting that, can assist with some of those natural things. I'm just not really big into not making it seem real, I guess. That's just not my personal style. That stuff is beautiful. I'm not downplaying that for anyone that does it. It's just not what I prefer to do.
You find a natural landscape, you take people there, you do your pictures, and it's perfect.
I think you have some examples of those pictures, don't you, Norm?
I do, and this one is quite possibly my favorite. This is just your children running.
Yes, those are my children.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, and it was just they were running, having fun. We were going to do family pictures that day, and we just took them out in the field because it's a beautiful area out there that was actually down in Hamburg. And I was like, let's just go have fun, to take a break from our normal stage. Hey, let's take some pictures together. And they were goofing off and having fun. And like you said, this is one of my favorite photos because it's that in the moment, natural, nothing's forced, and they're happy. They're chasing each other. Like, it's just, that's their true relationship right there.
That was not a forced smile at all. They were
no, and my kids, so.
Oh yeah.
And one just commented in on the show who was happened to be in that picture.
Oh boy, she hates her picture taken too. Let me tell you.
She just wrote, "Not me."
We did talk about weddings. Just the placement you put people in that's remarkable. That is beautiful.
That wedding happened about 10, 12 years ago, and it was in a beautiful vintage building in Williamsport, actually. And it's you wouldn't think that the top of a vintage building with lighting and stairs, like, it was just, it's just amazing what you can find. And you wouldn't think that the top of the stairwell would just make a beautiful picture, and it does.
Now, you were talking Williamsport and Hamburg. I'm guessing you travel and meet people wherever they wish.
Yeah.
Wherever the weddings are.
Especially weddings. Weddings, you should expect to travel. Weddings are all over. The only time that location the only thing that location really changes is sometimes it'll change the pricing, especially if it's long distances, travel plans, stuff like that. That may increase your price a little bit. I try not to do it much, but I do just have to compensate,
fuel and resources like that.
Yeah. But I try not to, increase it that much. But, the further out you go, sometimes it can, and that's okay.
We did talk about pricing. Here's just a quick list. You do maternity photos, newborn photos, birthday, yearly photos. I mean, that's $75 per session starting at. That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I try to keep my prices low. It's not my full-time job. It's my passion job. I don't make it my full-time job because I don't want to lose my passion for it. And I feel like that's extremely important when, capturing people's photos is, I feel like if I went full-time, I'd lose that passion, and then I lose my inspiration for doing it. So I do keep my prices low because I want people to be able to afford it, and I want them to get everything they need at a reasonable price.
That's a really grounded approach to any job, but to photography, because you have, especially if you're catching, you're catching those moments, or that inspiration comes out of those moments when you're doing it professionally. If you do it as a regular job, now it's not this way for all, I'm sure, but you could kind of lose some of that. You get a little numb to things, and maybe now you're not catching things like you would if it was more of your everyday job.
Absolutely.
So there was a question that the internet told me to ask because people would be interested that I would not have thought to ask. What type of equipment do you use?
So I currently have a Canon Rebel camera. It's actually only my second camera. I kept my first camera for the first 13 years. I do have stuff to do stuff in home. I have light setups for studio lights. I have some reflectors and stuff like that. I have seasonal props. I have a lot of backgrounds. I don't use them often, but I do have them because, weather plays a lot. Christmas pictures are hard to do outside, and especially for little ones, it's more natural to do it inside in a comfortable environment. So I do have that ability also. Nice thing is it's all travel, so I can always come to them, or I can do it in my own home, which is nice. A lot of kids are more comfortable in their own setting, so it's nice to be able to provide that for people.
That's awesome. So you were talking about Christmas photos and stuff like that, and it kind of leads me into my next question.
Okay.
As I remember for years going to the mall, getting pictures with Santa, and I was always that dad that would try and sneak around the back to get pictures with my kids sitting on Santa's lap. So
Yep.
everybody has a camera on their phone nowadays. Everyone. What are the reasons and or benefits to using a professional photographer when you're not, Joe Schmo like myself trying to sneak Santa pictures at the mall?
I'm really glad you asked that, because I actually hear that a lot when talking to people about, special events, including weddings. And, people will say, oh, we all have phones. I'll just get everyone to send me their pictures. The problem with that is you don't really get a personalized experience. Working with a professional photographer, you're going to meet with them. You're going to talk to them about what your goals, your visions, and, the outcome is. And they do all the work for you. You don't have to worry about anything. Like, having that professional there lets you have that stress-free event and stuff like that. So I personally take your vision and I make sure that I meet your goals, but I always strive to, like I said, add in my own expectations and my own visions with you, and I add in there, and a lot of times you're going to get something you didn't expect or something that you didn't know you wanted. As far as the difference in cameras, your phone camera doesn't have the large sensors for details, for lighting and stuff like that. And although a picture with your phone can look beautiful until you go to print it, especially when you want to make a large print. I know Norm has in his house a huge picture of his baseball team from a few years ago. And if that was taken with a phone, you would have maybe got a 5x7, possibly 8x10 before you started getting pixelated, blurry images. So with the professional cameras and stuff like that, you're going to be able to have a higher quality image that you're going to be able to print, to blow up. So that's the biggest difference with them, is it's definitely higher quality. And I know looking at it on a computer, it's going to look good, and it's really coming when you want to blow it up, you want to print it. And sometimes sending it digitally from your phone, it already starts distorting the more you send it.
Right. With the professional cameras that are used, you get a much higher resolution in your photographs. So other than what we're showing down here on the screen, is there any other ways folks can get a hold of you? Are you on Facebook? Do you have a website, or how else can folks get a hold of you?
I do have Facebook. I have a personal one, and I have a photography one, which I'm in the middle of updating. I don't have a lot of recent stuff on there. I am going to work on getting all that updated. So it's Tiffany Coleman Photography on Facebook. Tiffany Coleman is myself. So you can reach me both of those ways also.
Awesome. And before we let you go, do you have anything coming up? Any shoots coming up or anything like that?
I do. So I have 2 weddings booked for the next year. or before the end of the year. I have some family pictures. We have baseball season starting. So that's exciting. I also have some new exciting stuff that we're working on getting with the sporting events and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to be able to release that soon to be able to have people book that also.
Awesome. Very cool.
Now you do have a special discount code. I will throw that up. It's 10% off of anything excluding weddings. Weddings are a little expensive. If you book your session before July 1st. Sessions can be used later, correct?
Yes. As long as I'm trying to get it used by the end of the year. As long as you book it by July 2nd, the discount code will work for anything up to the end of the year.
Perfect. And that code is Cole County Entertainment, us truly. You just let Tiff know that you've seen us on here, and she'll help you out. Now,
I do want to say, whether you pick me that you want to have a consultation with or another photographer, because a photographer is just kind of like just as important as a doctor. You got to make sure you're comfortable. You got to make sure they're going to meet your needs. When you're meeting with a photographer, make sure that you're very honest and you're very open about your expectations, so they can make sure that they give you everything you want. As photographers, we provide the lasting memories for you. And I personally like to make the experience of capturing those memories just as important as the memories you're trying to capture. So the experience should be there also.
Good piece of information.
Well said. Well said. Well, Tiff, thanks for jumping on and kind of letting all of our viewers and our listeners out there in on what you have going on. If anyone needs a photography consultation, I highly recommend Tiff, and not just because she's my friend, but because it's definitely a quality small business. So for Tiffany Coleman Photography, for Norm Deal, I'm Tom Kelly. This is the Small Business Saturday Show, and we're out of here.
Wake up on Saturday, the grind's on my mind. Dreams in the window, but the rent's in a bind. Pour the coffee hot and the to-do list speaks.